As we enter the final week of the Steam Summer Sale for 2022, I thought it would be a good idea to reflect on some of the best cheap games from across Steam, across genres, all of everything that Steam has to offer. What are the penny pinching deals that can save you a few dollars along the way? We're going to start with some very cheap games available for around $5 US. Nothing on this list will cost you more than $10 US. Let's begin. With a relatively quick and easy recommendation, I start with The Sims 4. If you don't have access to EA Play and you're not already somehow given access to The Sims 4 along your PC gaming journey, you might want to pick it up now. It came out in 2014, but it is still the most recent edition. And while it's had a myriad of DLC available to it and still continues to receive more, I think Werewolves was the most recent one, it's absolutely an excellent addition to The Sims 4. And the entire Sims catalog, in fact, and it's 75% off. It's a very cheap pickup during the summer sale. If survival multiplayer is your kind of thing, you're probably already familiar with Dead by Daylight. Not something that I'm personally into myself, but this looks like a really brilliant opportunity for you to pick it up, particularly if you've got some friends ready to play. It is a multiplayer 4 versus 1 horror game where one player takes the role of a savage killer, and the other 4 players are survivors trying to complete various tasks and escape relatively unscathed. At 60% off, it's very cheap to pick up a single copy of the game. You could, of course, also look to pick up additional copies for your friends potentially at this price. It's a good buy, a very fun game to watch. I've watched loads of streams of people playing this game and have absolutely laughed my backside off. It looks like a very enjoyable title at a great price. If you think that driving a truck across Europe isn't fun, you're wrong. At least in video game form, you're wrong. Euro Truck Simulator 2 is one of those games that I initially turned my nose up at and thought, no, that's stupid. Why would I want to simulate driving and following rules and stuff? But actually, it's a really fun experience. A little clunky, perhaps, on the keyboard and mouse, but if you've got a controller or you don't mind learning the various controls, or you're so lucky as to have one of those cool steering wheels, then you're absolutely going to love this. But honestly, Euro Truck Simulator, it's $7.50 in New Zealand. That puts it at about $5 or $6 US. Seriously, I can't recommend this enough. If you've got a little bit of money to spare, this is probably the best, cheapest, anyway, best bang for your buck transport driving open world simulator you can buy. And what is likely the best Age of Empires and one of the best real-time strategy games of all time that you could buy is Age of Empires 2. The definitive edition is on special at a whopping 70% off, so if you don't already have access to this title, you might want to pick it up now. At 70% off, that's a great price, about as low as it goes. And seriously, we think that this is probably the best deal that we've seen. From the few people that I was talking to, we sort of scratched our heads and thought, actually, we can't really come up with a better one than this. So at 70% off, why not pick up Age of Empires 2 if you don't already have it? A real-time strategy classic. Winner of the Labor of Love Award in the Steam Awards 2021, I'm told, and for good reason, is Terraria. At 50% off, this is a great price point. And what was already, to be fair, a pretty cheap game, it is without a doubt one of the best 2D survival open world games that we've ever seen. It did follow in sort of the legacy of Minecraft at the time where Minecraft was really just pumping and releasing and just starting to come out. 2011, Terraria released to overwhelmingly positive reviews, and it continues that way. It's a really enjoyable game. As someone who doesn't particularly enjoy the sort of 2D side-scrolling experience that often, I really, really like Terraria. There's an incredible amount of depth to it as well. No pun intended with the caves and the caverns. But there really is. This is an incredible game and at a great price. Highly recommend picking that up. And again, a really fun one with friends. I see here they have a 4-pack available, also at 50% off. Could be worth a look. I've mentioned Frostpunk already in my specific strategy recommendation video, so I won't dwell on it too long here, other than to say that this is a really fun take on a sort of survival city builder strategy game. It's set in a post-apocalyptic setting. The Frostpunk setting is a first society survival game. Ruler of the last city on Earth, it's your duty to manage the citizens and infrastructure and make crucial decisions around your society's survival. It's really fun. It's got kind of a steampunk, almost sort of post-apocalyptic vibe to it. I'd recommend you check it out if you haven't already, and I note that there is a second one, Frostpunk 2, announced and on the way as well. If you'd like that kind of strategy, that sort of colony sim, city builder, but on a slightly different level and perhaps a slightly more peaceful one, or at least less harsh, you might want to look to Surviving at Mars. Also, to be fair, a fairly harsh environment to survive in. Surviving Mars comes out of Paradox Interactive, a fairly well-received strategy game at 75% off. It's a pretty good price point too. So you might want to check this one out if the sort of post-apocalyptic setting of Frostpunk isn't quite your thing. You might like Surviving Mars instead. And if we want to head right out into space and really embracing the release of Kenobi on Disney Plus, we have Star Wars, Lego Star Wars, the complete saga, available for 75% off, bringing it down to around $4 US. A fantastically brilliant game. It is, of course, a relatively original one in the Lego Star Wars and indeed the entire Lego game franchise. There is a more recent version of this one available, I know, so you might want to look at the rest of their catalog if you're making a single purchasing decision, but I can absolutely recommend this one as a cheap, wonderful Lego Star Wars experience. Loop Hero is a wonderful merger of a load of different genres. It's a roguelike game. It's also a sort of card builder, or should I say deck building game, where choices matter. It's a very tactical experience at that. Loop Hero is sort of a unique game and experience all two of its own. Basically, you've been thrown into a timeless loop and plunged into never-ending chaos. Wield an expanding deck of mythical cards, as they say in the description, to place enemies and buildings and terrain along each unique expedition loop for the brave hero, kind of playing out these loops, building them up. It's a fun experience. It may not be to everyone's tastes. Indeed, the graphics might be a little catered to a certain type of experience, but if you're into this kind of roguelike, tactical, sort of Factorio meets deck building meets a roguelike game, I think you'll like Loop Hero. Another timeless classic that it would be unfair of me not to mention at an incredible 80% off down to $2 is Dishonored. Overwhelmingly positively reviewed, and for very good reason. The original Dishonored game, a fantastic first-person stealth action game. Really brilliant. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend that you do. It still looks visually impressive to this day as well. It is a real masterpiece of tactics. Is the stealth perfect? No, but it's a really enjoyable experience. Dishonored 1 in particular, the classic, and probably the cheapest game on this list as well. This game also made it to my strategy game, simulation game recommendations list, so I won't spend too long on it here, but if you don't have City Skylines, you really should. It's probably the best city building simulation management strategy game. It is a fantastic experience. I can highly, highly recommend even just the base game alone of City Skylines will leave budding city planners feeling very comfortable and at home. Jedi Fallen Order is a more Souls-like, third-person realistic action-adventure game out of the Star Wars franchise that I thought might also appeal to a lot of you. At 75% off, we are coming into the 4 more expensive items on my list. It brings it down to $12.50 New Zealand, which is still below a $10 cutoff point. It's known to be a really, really interesting, sort of lore-based, enjoyable action experience that I think a lot of you will enjoy, even if you're not necessarily a huge Star Wars fan. There is a second one in the works, as well as a whole load of other titles, including some strategy game titles coming in the Star Wars sort of broader franchise. So keep an eye out for those. But if you don't have access to EA Play, you might want to pick up your own copy of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order for 75% off. I must mention Sid Meier's Civilization 6, probably the most popular 4X historical strategy game of all time, and likely for very good reason, is of course at a whopping 85% off, bringing it just in nearly at our cutoff point of around $10. This is a great historical strategy game. If you don't have it, you should, and I've got plenty of coverage on my channel of this one. One of the best open world RPGs of all time out of CD Projekt Red is the overwhelmingly positively reviewed The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Will be even more popular, I imagine, with the Netflix series, I think, coming out with another season or something sometime soon. Either way, it's 80% off at around just shy of, in fact, $10. this will be an easy $10 to spend. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is a brilliant, incredibly story rich. It still looks and feels fantastic to this day. Particularly in terms of its graphics. It's a beautiful RPG experience. Considering it was released in 2015, it's really performing well. The open world is great, the storytelling is great, and if you've seen or read The Witcher, you're going to feel even more at home. But even if you haven't, it's actually quite an easy recommend for me as a standalone, enjoyable RPG experience at 80% off. And last but certainly not least, a game I have covered a little bit before, Northgard is 60% off, just scraping in barely within our threshold. This one is a city building real-time strategy game, and it also sort of incorporates some colony sim elements to it. It comes from Shadow Games, who have also been working on and producing and building loads of other great things sort of in the related genre. So if you're a strategy gamer, like a lot of you may be if you're watching my channel, then you should be at least somewhat interested in the work that they're doing, I think. Think Dune, Spice Wars, and a load of other things. And that concludes this video. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any recommendations of any cheap games that I might have missed off my list or that you'd like to see included, do comment them below. We'll hive mind and share our knowledge, and I'll see you next time.